Check one, two. Testing audio. Check one, two. Check one, two. Testing audio. Check one, two. Testing audio. Check one, two. Testing audio. Check audio. Test one, two.
All right, good morning, everyone. As we begin today's meeting, we would like to acknowledge that we are gathering here today on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and before them, the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Huron, and Wendat. We acknowledge the many First Nation, Métis, Inuit, and other global Indigenous people that now call Brampton their home. We are honored to live, work, and enjoy this land. Good morning and welcome to our meeting of Brampton's Committee of Council. All members are present today with the following participating remotely or absent. Madam Clerk, over to you.
Through you, Chair. Everybody is here in person with the exception of Mayor Brown and Deputy Mayor Singh. They may be joining us online shortly.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm online, just to let everyone know. It's Mayor Brown.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. The next item is approval of the agenda. Madam Clerk, I believe you have some updates for us.
Through you, Chair. There's been a few updates since the original publishing of the agenda. 6.1, delegations regarding the notice of public meeting about proposed development charges. A delegation has been added. 6.4, the delegation from Andrea Baranowski, Manager of Community Engagement and Projects, Canadian Polish Business Association. Additional information has been added. 11.2.6, Staff Report, 2024 Development Charges. Report has been added. The presentation for 7.1, Government Relations Matters, has been published as well. And I have received a mayoral decision pursuant to strong mayor powers set out in the Municipal Act that appoints Councillor Brar as Chair and Councillor Power as Vice Chair to Corporate Services, and this has been reflected in today's agenda for the first time.
Wonderful. Congratulations to Chair Brar and Vice Chair Councillor Rod Power. Do any members wish to add any business items for today's meeting? Please put your name on the board. Councillor Paleshi, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'd like to add a discussion item about the briefing note that was just sent today by the CAO on transitional building properties.
Okay, so discussion item.
I would also look to legal to see if any of the discussions would need to be in camera.
So, through the chair, we can decide on that as the discussion progresses.
Who is that?
Samir.
Oh, Samir. Okay.
I don't know what he said.
Samir, can you say that again? Sorry, it was very muffled.
I don't know.
Through the chair, and in terms of closed session, we can see how the discussion goes and then decide if we need to go into closed session.
Okay, so we'll proceed, if the item is added, proceed with the discussion, and if there is a flag for in-camera matters, the city solicitor will speak at that time to bring it in camera.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. So that's a discussion item added regarding the recent briefing note from the CAO concerning transitional properties, correct? Thank you, Councillor Paleshi. Any further additions? I'm going to check online for any hands that are up. I see no hands up online. I do have one deletion, which is item 9.3.1, a discussion item that I added regarding communication and signage for bylaws. I've already spoken with staff and they've already gone ahead and made some improvements to that, so I'm withdrawing that item. Thank you very much to the team. All right, so that, Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Through you, Chair, I believe we have 11.3.1, a discussion item at the request of Mayor Brown regarding the addition of Guyanese Independence Day
Okay.
event listing.
So 11.3.1 will be added as a discussion item at the request of Mayor Brown regarding the addition of Guyanese Independence Day to Heritage Month corporate events listings. All right, so that is the amended agenda. We have a motion moved by Councillor Paleshi to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries. The next item is declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Do any members have any declarations of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act regarding any item on our agenda today? Seeing none, the clerk will so note. As part of our consent motion process, which is next on our agenda, I will read each agenda item that is subject to the consent motion, and any member may verbally identify them to be held for debate during the meeting. Any item not held for debate will be considered as part of the consent motion and voted on for approval. Item 7.1, staff update, government relations matter. 7.2, Driver Training and Examinations Auditor General Report, correspondence from Judith Smith, Director of Municipal Governance, Clerk, Municipality of Chatham-Kent, and Allison Penner, Deputy Clerk, City of Owen Sound, in consent. 7.3, correspondence from MPP Lise Vagois and the Northern Caucus of the Ontario NDP regarding driver training and examinations and the AG report, in consent. 9.2.1, staff report, proposed amendments to refuse and dumping bylaw, in consent. 9.2.2, staff report, safer drivers equals safer roads information report, in consent. 9.2.3, staff report, driving instruction on city property and annual license renewals, in consent. 11.2.1, staff report, 2025 final tax levy and bylaw, in consent. 11.2.2, staff report, 2025 report to amend bylaw 107-2020 to establish bank and investment management signing authority and controls, in consent. 11.2.3, staff report, purchasing activity quarterly report, fourth quarter 2024. 11.2.3, held by Councillor Paleshi. 11.2.4, staff report, active consulting service contracts, in consent. 11.2.5, staff report, festivals and events policy, in consent. 11.2.6 is held for delegation. 12.2.1, staff report, budget amendment, Donnelly Ponds Restoration Project, Ward 2, in consent. 12.2.2, staff report, budget amendment, Brampton Transit Service extensions into the town of Caledon, in consent. 13.1, the referred matters list, which is published quarterly on the city website, in consent. 15.1, closed report, citizen awards recipients for 2024, in consent. 15.2, closed report is held regarding 311 technology modernization, and 15.3 is held for a verbal update. The clerk will now summarize those items to be included on the consent motion for approval. Madam Clerk.
Through you, Chair, the following items will be included on the consent motion. 7.1, Government Relations Matters. 7.2, correspondence regarding driver training and examinations Auditor General Report. 7.3, correspondence regarding driver training and examinations Auditor General Report. 9.2.1, staff report, proposed amendments to the refuse and dumping bylaw. 9.2.2, staff report, safe drivers equals safer roads. 9.2.3, staff report, driving instruction on city property and annual license renewals. 11.2.1, staff report, 2025 final tax levy. 11.2.2, staff report, 2025 report to amend bylaw to establish bank and investment management signing authority. 11.2.4, staff report, active consulting service contracts. 11.2.5, staff report, festivals and events policy. 12.2.1, staff report, budget amendment, Donnelly Ponds Restoration Project. 12.2.2, staff report, budget amendment, Brampton Transit Service extensions. 13.1, referred matters list. 15.1, closed report, 2024 Citizen Award recipients. And that's it for the consent motion, Chair.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. I have a motion moved by Councillor Paleshi, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that one of the items, the last item on in camera, wasn't supposed to be on this meeting. It's supposed to be the next meeting because staff aren't ready to provide that update.
Thank you, Councillor Paleshi. Madam Clerk, just wondering if we could perhaps refer this at the time?
15.3.
Refer 15.3.
I believe there's correspondence, but I'm not getting into any.
And just for clarification to staff, should we refer it to council or defer it for the next committee?
Through the chair, council will recall this matter was referred to the April 9th council meeting as
Okay.
opposed to today. So it may have been
Okay.
a clerical error publishing it on today's agenda.
Okay, so this item will be referred to the April 9th council meeting. 15.3 will be referred to the April 9th council meeting instead of being put into consent. Do I need a separate motion for that, Madam Clerk, just in case?
Through you, Chair, if we remove it from the consent listing, we can follow up with the referral just to be, for
Okay.
that extra clarity.
Sounds good. Okay, so let's continue, so we will remove 15.3 from the consent agenda and deal with that separately. Madam Clerk, continue please with your summary.
That was all of the items,
Perfect.
Chair, with
So we have a motion moved by Councillor Keenan to approve the consent motion. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Should we now deal with 15.3? So we'll now deal with 15.3, a motion from Councillor Paleshi to refer the item to council on April the 9th, item 15.3, closed report. Moved by Councillor Paleshi. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. That will be now dealt with next week. Okay, announcements. We have no announcements this morning, but we do have a number of delegations. And so for public delegations, I just want to make a note that each delegation will be permitted 5 minutes each. There is a clock behind me behind my left shoulder. And we will begin our delegations with Andrew Marabella. Welcome Andrew Marabella, who is delegating on the notice of public meeting regarding proposed development charges amending bylaws, item 11.2.6. Andrew Marabella from Associate Partner, Hemson Consulting. Thanks, Andrew. You have 5 minutes.
All right, good morning, the chair, members of council, and the mayor. My name again, Andrew Marabella from Hemson Consulting. The purpose of today's meeting is related to the Office Development Charge Incentive Program, which requires a DC amendment to your existing bylaws. This is a statutory public meeting being held under the Act. So is there a clicker here, or can we just go to the next slide? Perfect, thank you. So the purpose of this meeting is, as I mentioned, statutory public meeting under Section 12 of the DCA. The primary purpose here is to provide the public with an opportunity to make any representation on the proposed amending bylaw, as well as the supporting DC incentive program. Both the amending bylaw and the background study were made available to the public in accordance with the Development Charges Act. Similarly, the notice of the public meeting for today was provided in accordance with the DCA itself. If we go to the next slide, just to kind of provide a bit of an overview, the current situation in which development charges are, as it relates to major office developments, are currently exempt from the payment of DCs in the city. The exemption itself is provided for office that exceeds a minimum of total floor area of 20,000 square feet, with office space with a focus on the intended sectors. Staff directed to expand the opportunities of the development charge exemption for office use to encourage job generation and employment diversification. Council supports the recommendation to develop the incentive program, in which part we are currently expanding that program to apply to other offices in the city. If we go to the next slide, the incentive program itself, as I mentioned, is designed to encourage office development in Brampton by providing DC deferrals and waivers on other eligible projects. Major office would still be exempt and not subject to the program itself. Development charge payments may be deferred for 3 years, starting from the date of the occupancy permits. Some of the eligibility criteria and the overview of it, obviously it has to meet the definition of office as per the bylaw. There is now no size limitation to qualify for the incentive program, so anything under the 20,000 square feet is going to be captured as part of that, and it's certainly targeted to a certain number of sectors that you're trying to attract, which are listed from the advanced manufacturing all the way down to professional services, which correlates to the similar kind of scope that were looked at from the major office side of things. There are some other program criteria to kind of outline and scope it, so there are some ineligible uses. It talks about change of use, the administration of the policy, the application process, and the program determination and success measures, which allows for ease of use and amendments to it. Certainly just to kind of comment on the ineligible uses, we're trying to make sure that retail is not kind of scoped within the office incentive program, so those are examples of what would be ineligible under this program. If we go to the next slide, just to kind of go through some other minor housekeeping amendments that are kind of being brought forward through this process. There's a removal of some of the contradictions as it relates to a clause in the bylaw related to exemption for region-owned residential developments, which kind of already kind of overlap with the exemption provided under Section 3 of the DCA. So we've made that adjustment in the bylaw, as well as some updated definitions to provide greater clarity that corresponds to the DC amendment bylaw and process that we're going through as it pertains to kind of the office uses, professional services, and your kind of catchment area of non-industrial, non-major office. If we go to the next slide, just to kind of cap off the fairly brief presentation, this is a public meeting specifically on the scoped amendment, so the remaining parts of your bylaw are not being reviewed and everything else will remain intact. So we've advertised for the public meeting, we've released the proposed amending DC bylaws. We're here today to do the statutory public meeting to kind of go through the legislative process, at which point we'll be passing the DC bylaw, the amending bylaw on April 9th, and following that, there's statutory requirements for the notice of passage, which the city will kind of make sure is being done in accordance with the act. So that concludes the formal presentation on the public meeting component.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I have a question from Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As this is a public meeting, this is only for the public, but I did want you to just repeat any of the one slide that showed the limitations on the exemption. Could you go back to that and restate what you had said? Oh, we passed it. Sorry. One more.
On the eligibility criteria?
That one. This one, I think, is when you said it. Could you
Yes.
just-
So on the overview of the eligibility criteria, so it relates to the, it has to meet the definition of office within the bylaw. So it's targeted specifically for office sectors, which is important.
Which is provincially designated, right? That's provincially mandated what is determined office, right? That's not us.
Yeah, there's definitions within kind of some of the legislation, which kind of defines office, which we've kind of helped kind of fine tune it with that. And what's important here is the removal of the side limitation, which your current bylaw has at 20,000 square feet. So if you hit over 20,000 square feet, you'd get the exemption. Now, if you're under 20,000 square feet and you meet the criteria, you are eligible to kind of opt into this program, but there has to be proof that you are actually using it for office and it meets the criteria and it has to stay that way for a while. So ensures that the city is not just giving away development charge exemptions for something that's not actually intended of what you're trying to attract.
So no workarounds.
Trying to limit that, correct?
Excellent. Thank you
Yeah.
very much for your delegation. It was fantastic. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Pelletier. I have no further questions, Andrew. A motion moved by Councillor Pelletier to receive the delegation. All in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thanks, Andrew, for being here today. The next delegation we have is regarding any other members of the public who want to delegate on this. I see no one here in the audience and no one online. So the next delegation is from Deepa Saxena, Director of Casa de Montessori School, regarding a space/long-term lease for a daycare center. Yes, Councillor Pelletier.
Madam Chair, I believe that you have to ask 3 times. The clerk can clarify, can let me know if I'm wrong, but just want to make sure that this is done 100%. I believe you have to
Okay.
ask the public 3 times specifically if there's anybody that wants to ask any questions or delegate on that proposed public bylaw.
I'll ask 3 times. Yeah. Okay, so asking a second time, do any members of the public have any further delegations regarding item 11.2.6, notice of public meeting regarding proposed development charges amending bylaws? Anyone online, Madam Clerk? Any
There's nobody
public?
online.
Okay. Asking a third time, do any members of the public online or here in the chamber wish to delegate on item 11.2.6 regarding the proposed development charges amending bylaws? Madam Clerk?
I see nobody online. Is
Okay.
it committee's wish to bring the report forward at this time?
Yeah, we could bring the report forward. Councillor Pelletier, would you like to bring the report forward?
I'd love to.
Great. So 11.2.6. All those in favor, moved by Councillor Pelletier. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you so much, Councillor Pelletier, Madam Clerk, for that. Our next item of the agenda is 6.2, a delegation from Deepa Saxena, Director, Casa de Montessori School, regarding space long-term lease for a daycare center. Welcome, Deepa. Thank you for your patience. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Mayor Brown, too. I'm one of those directors for the Casa de Montessori School and operating manager for the Casa de Montessori Schools. I have a strong educational background. with masters in educations and working with the Toronto School Public School System. That's what we started. We get into the small business of Casa de Montessori School with 2 other directors with the same, other professionals background of accounting and accounting and other softwares engineers. So it's a small business run by family members. Next slides, please. So right now we have 2 operating Montessori schools, one of them in Brampton, another in Bolton. One of those we have the opportunity of Mayor Brown doing the opening ceremony there. The third one is in the process of licensing. We thought before we would have licensing, but there is a little bit construction issues are going with this city, so we soon will be getting the third. The reason I'm here, that we are looking for bigger space right now. These 2 spaces are very small, and we have a long waiting list where every morning I get 10 to 15 calls for parents seeking their child to get into the Brampton and Bolton locations for their child to be enrolled. That's what we decided to have a bigger space for us. Next slide, please. This is the picture of one of those spaces where Mayor Brown did the opening ceremonies, and these are the some pictures from one of those classrooms and the students over there. We are having inclusive and all communities involved in our schools, in our Montessori schools. We are following the Montessori philosophies. We are into the process of accreditations from CCMA into the Montessori curriculum to be adopted, but still we are since we are new, so we have to meet their requirements too. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, that we are having a small capacities locations. We are looking for those meeting the requirement of the there. And having said that, we've been looking out for various spaces, private spaces, but it's very hard, and the leasing rents and the buying capacity for our small business like this could not meet those demands, which is in the Brampton or in Northeast Brampton or other places in the Brampton. That's why we are seeking the city to help us out to find spaces. Basically, next slide, please. So basically, we are looking for a space of 4,500 or 6, but lesser than that or more than that, we will able to accommodate that. It's just that we thought we can accommodate around 80 to 90 kids into that. But again, having said that, it's not that specifically we are looking for that area space. Next slide, please. Our more Montessori schools are adhering all the requirement. All 3 locations are going to be under CWAP, that's the $10 program, and we are part of the peers, CDRCP and Region of Peel, so we are into those, working with them. Next slide, please. We are meeting the requirements of the Peel region. So we are all having inclusive environment, low income group, and everyone having into that, our school system. Next slide, please. And I believe our system will help the community, our school system will help the community to take the overload of the child care system. So that's what we are asking the city to help us out if they can provide us the more. Next slide, please. We are looking for a place more on the west side, but anyway, we have any places okay with us right now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for your delegation. I'm just going to check online if I have any questions online. I see no questions online and no questions in the chamber. So a motion moved by Councillor Tour to receive the delegation. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. Thanks for your delegation. The next delegation is from Kevin Farrell and Sanjay Patel, President and COO of Gateway Market Canada Incorporated and Tobmar Investments Incorporated, and Sanjay Patel, franchisee subtenant Gateway on the Go Brampton City Hall, Gateway on the Go, Brampton City Hall, regarding a request for rent relief, Gateway on the Go, Brampton City Hall. Good morning, Kevin, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very
have up to
much.
5 minutes. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mayor, Chair, and members of council. Thank you very much for your time today. If I can please skip to slide 3. Thank you very much. I'm Kevin Farrell, President and COO of Gateway Market Canada, Inc. and Tobmar Investments, Inc. And I'm joined with my franchisee and subtenant, Sanjay Patel, AKA Sam, at the Cafe on the Go within Brampton City Hall. Sanjay's a proud small business owner, and he's been committed to servicing the city staff since 2017 for your food and snacking needs. We're here today to request council to consider extending our rent relief beyond November 2024 as previously granted. Next slide, please. What I'm showing here is the sales of Sanjay since 2019. What we know, obviously the pandemic and the return to work by city staff has been challenging and limited. Non-management at 3 days per week, management at 4 days per week. Sales are directly correlated to city staff being in the building, as the store is not accessible to outside public. 2024 sales were plus 14% versus 23, a positive uptick. However, 2024 total sales of $57,000 are down 50% to 2019. Next slide, please. A bit of an eye chart, but really the red bubbles on the right-hand side is really trying to point out where Sanjay's wages land. In 2024, he earned $6,200. That's a little less than $2.50 per hour. In 2025, he's expected to make zero, and in fact, invest $4,300 into his business. Rent as a percentage of sales in 2024 was 29%. It's forecasted to be 49% this year. In most of our locations, we gauge rent as a percentage of sales between 10 and 15%. Our lease currently expires in August of this year, and we understand the space will be RFP'd, which we fully intend to submit back to Sanjay. This is his livelihood. This is his business. He wants to submit as part of that RFP. And again, we're seeking your support on extended rent relief. I'd like to pass it over to Sanjay for a moment to add any commentary.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, all councillors and staff, to support me from their heart and their all support. I'm here. I'm very proud to be here in a city staff. I'm very proud feeling for serving for city. And as a Bramptonian, I'm feeling proud that city councillors and mayor, they are supporting small business a lot, and I know you guys support me a lot, and you give me a very strong confidence to get in the keep in the business. So that's my advantage, that I got it from all staff members and councillors and everyone. But I just feeling my financial shortage from like what you support me in 2024, and the staff is city is asking for full rent from 2024, like half after August. That I seeking support like same like before, and please consider that rent relief and TMI, and because I'm just working only staff hours, not evening business, not weekend business. So this is particularly only for the staff, not for the public. So this is considered like an inside business, not the public business. So please consider like all including in a one rent to give me support so I can survive, and my family will be all supporting. I'm thanking my family too, because of my son and my daughter-in-law and my daughter. They support me a lot financially. That's why I'm standing here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanjay and Kevin, for your delegation. I have a question from Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'll be the guy and start by saying, you know, it's a business. You're not going to tug on the heartstrings of I don't believe anybody up here when the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. That being said, what needs to be fair needs to be fair. And I'll start by saying, before I get into your, no, I'll start straight to outside sales. You say you're not open to the public. Anybody from the public, anybody off the street can walk in and purchase something. You don't not sell to them. So can you clarify when you said you're not open to the public?
Yeah.
No, not, sorry.
Awesome.
Please, sir. You said
Certainly.
it first.
Yes, gates are pass guarded. Customers can come in through the main entrance.
No gates are pass guarded when City Hall is open. City Hall is open to the public.
Yes.
And the bridge is also open to the public.
Yes.
Anybody can gain access during our hours.
So absolutely correct. Then to your point, I apologize that it is possible to access it, although where the store is physically located on the bridge on the second floor, highly unlikely for a consumer from street front to make their way through the,
So every morning I come through, I park in West Tower, I come across the bridge, and I always see somebody sitting at the table that's clearly from the public, not a city employee. So it's, I feel like, getting the word out there to the public that is surrounding, it invites people up. That being said, hours of operation, we dictate to you, Sanjay, the hours of operations for you to, what time you're open till, what time you're closed till, is that right?
the current lease does not dictate operating hours. They are upon the decision of Sanjay. And from that perspective, he's managing to where he believes the business is.
So you
Okay.
could come in the weekends and open if you wanted to. You could stay later in the evenings if you wanted to, and you could open earlier in the morning?
No.
Technically, yes.
Yes, you
Because,
can.
gates are closed.
But there lays a problem, the gate's closed. Have you ever had the conversation with staff to say, I want to open up for longer hours, I want to come in on the weekend, unlock the access to me?
Yeah, I ask some of the staff, and they say like it is not possible. This is only for the working hours. Only we cannot open the door because of the safety reason. We cannot leave our door open for the public.
So that seems to be a problem, because then we're limiting essentially the hours of operation. But in, I guess, a contract that we have, we're not limiting your hours, right? So it doesn't, so that's unfortunate. What do you believe the current going rate, monthly rent rate is today for a business like Sanjay's?
My expectation is when we're on the 10% rent as a percentage of sales, we're getting a very good deal. Our franchisee is doing well. On the high end of 15% is where it starts to teeter to affect their profitability. Being double of that, so the solution is sell more.
Yeah.
So to your point earlier, thank you. If we open longer, potentially we sell some more, but then it comes at a cost of his wages
For
at
sure.
that point. So if we were able to double our sales, then our percentage of rent would fall within the range that we're looking at. It just seems to be a long way away based on the recovery from the pandemic and the number of people in the building.
Okay. And then you said for most of your locations, can you go back to what you had stated about, for most, and I think that has to do with the rent for most of your locations. Is it all along the same lines, or do you see a big difference in the rent?
It does vary dramatically.
Yeah.
We have very few stores that would have rent below 10%. In the recovery from the pandemic, we had many stores above 15%. Many of our landlords were gracious with some rent relief, or our sales recovered to then get the rent back in line. We have varying types of locations, from food-only locations, transit locations, some government buildings, and then street front locations.
Do we determine what you are allowed to and what you're not allowed to sell
Yes, the usage is detailed within the lease.
within the lease? Is there anything in that lease that you see is different than any of the other gateway operations, or is it fairly the same across the board?
It's fairly consistent.
Okay. And utilities, there was a problem, has there ever been a problem with utilities? Who's paying for them, who paid for them, and who's going to pay them in the future?
The utility, like, usually like in this kind of business, like what my friends has, like all utilities are included in TMI and the basic rent, like all, so just one rent, and that's all for the limited staff business. If it is like on the road or public business, that is different, but if it's like for the staff and only, that like all utility and TMI, everything in one amount, like that's need to pay. So that's way business can run properly, like what they can do and what they can increase or how they
Okay,
can.
and currently you pay, so you're saying it's usually included in the TMI?
Yeah.
You pay TMI, rent, and utilities?
Yeah,
And has that always been since the time you've opened?
no. It was, when it was, I was started, it was included in TMI, the basically like hydro, it was included in a TMI. And then after 2019, like they separated from the TMI, but still I am paying the same amount of the TMI what I was paying before. And the utility, like hydro bill, they are sending separately to me. And if I not pay, they put penalty on it. I paid penalty one time also, even though we were discussing what need to be figured out. And one time they figure out like, okay, $2,000 a year, that a fixed amount, and then they back to the normal, like they send me the invoices again. Before, like they agree with the $2,000 a year, so that was the fixed rate, fixed hydro, and then they come back with the billing again with the 3 month.
And what does your contract say?
Contract says like,
Doesn't detail.
doesn't detail that, and they separated from the lease, I don't know why.
Was there a renegotiation or another contract that was written up afterwards when we started charging you for, or we separated utilities?
No, there is no another contract or nothing was signed off.
Okay. I think those were my questions. I'll like to ask staff some questions, but I see Councillor Keenan's on the board. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Councillor Paleshi. Councillor Keenan is next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Councillor Paleshi did ask a few of the questions I was going to ask, but I have some questions for you, Kevin, if you don't mind. Obviously, as a franchisee, there's fees to the franchise. So what is that structure? Is that a monthly structure, a yearly structure?
It's a monthly structure, percentage-based, paid on gross sales.
So your firm gets paid based on the sales. And has there been any renegotiation from you to help Sanjay in this situation?
Other than obviously our time and investment with Sanjay trying to either improve his sales, improve his business, and then certainly attending on his behalf many meetings with the real estate team within City of Brampton over the historic years.
But no financial thing from Gateway to Sanjay given the times, just other than you coming here asking us to do something?
Correct.
And is there anything that you can foresee the parent company or the franchise or corporate, doing something for Sanjay?
Certainly we can look at it. It is definitely on an exception basis. As information, our royalties that earned from Sanjay for last year were under $2,000 in total.
Right. Okay. Understandably, given the situation. I struggle with the fact of coming here and asking us to do something when corporate itself hasn't done anything itself yet either. Whether that, be 50% of, asking us for 50% of a rent rebate and maybe dropping yours by 50% as well until the sales get there. I'm just offering recommendations because it's, I would struggle with that. I'm a business owner. I own multiple restaurants myself. And, I would, as a business owner, I would look to get my assistance from you first before going to my landlord as corporate. So I would hope to see something from you guys to Sanjay, and obviously we'll look at what we're capable of still doing, but I think that has to be, put out there, that corporate should be stepping up as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Keenan. And Councillor Paleshi, some questions to staff.
And so happy to receive the delegation. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming. To staff, I guess the hours of operation, if the lease doesn't say that, if it's mute on the subject and we allow them to open whenever they want, how do we then lock the doors that provides that access to them?
Through the chair to Councillor Paleshi, in terms of accessing the space, again, the main floor can be accessed even after hours if we see it. If there's anything specific that's required, we can always work with our facilities team to make that possible. So that's something that we can definitely work with Sanjay as well and make that option for them if they want to work after hours or even on Saturdays.
But we've not provided that.
I think that's not been the exact ask so far, so precisely, because of course, the thought has been that if the staff is not there, the count or the volume isn't there for Sanjay or anybody from his family or anybody to.
We can't get into his
Exactly, right?
business, right? It's
Yep,
there,
and
but if Sanjay's coming to us, or if the business is coming to us to say, we would like to expand our hours, and then we say, well, operationally, we can't do that, then that's limited in
Exactly.
the access, right?
And
So that's something, if we can get around that and figure that out,
Sure.
that's great going forward. I guess let's go straight to the utilities.
Sure.
How did we were paying utilities and then we turned to have him pay for them. So what happened there?
Sure. So for clarity, the way the agreement is structured, they're obligated to pay the base rent plus the TMIs and the utilities.
Okay.
In the initial half, when the agreement was structured, the utilities were not being structured, I understand, for some duration of time. However, when the city actually made the determination based on the exact reading, so we did that assessment, we worked with Sanjay, we had an external consultant as well, review everything for him. The amounts were being charged at actuals. There was a request, I think, believe around 2020, that they were seeking that they wanted us to waive some amounts. So the $2,000 that is being identified here today is about a previous council direction where council said that about 50% would be waived, and that's when that was given for a certain duration of time. Thereafter, because it's as per actuals, it's as per the meters, so we are charging them base rent, TMIs, and the utilities, which is coming as per the actual readings and the terms of the agreement.
Okay, so were we working with the business and letting them know that, and walk me back through that. Were we looking at the utilities to see what they were gonna cost? Why didn't we charge them from the beginning?
I think in the beginning there was, and Councillor Paleshi, this predates my time with the city as well, but my understanding is that this was being done because they did not have a metering system initially, so there was like more of a lump sum adjustment that was being charged within the TMIs. However, once they had that mechanism in place and everything was pretty much structured, the information was shared with SAM, and then we started charging them. So that discussion happened multiple times back and forth. Consultant went.
Okay, so he was being prepared all along the way.
Essentially,
until it's
essentially,
metered.
yes, absolutely.
Fine. But the lump sum in the TMI never reduced, is what was stated
Right,
today.
absolutely, because the TMIs would also go through an increase annually, right? The taxes, maintenance, and insurance, all those amounts year on year, because it's a 10-year agreement, started 2015, now we are 2025. The amounts, of course, have increased over the years. So if we say that what he was paying 5 years ago, it's similar to what he's paying now in the TMIs, even after the utilities being separate, it's because the amounts have also changed. But we can definitely take that back and take a closer look at it if that's the direction.
Okay. In terms of the rent, TMI, I guess utilities separate, but in terms of the rent and the TMI that we're currently charging Gateway, the business, how does that stack up against the rent that we charge the tenant below Sanjay, the tenants across the street, any other tenants in private businesses in our area? in our buildings.
Sure. Through the chair to Councillor Qureshi. So in terms of the rents that we charge, given that we have been supportive of the business all along, the rents are actually below, or at least I would say at the lower end of the range, if I can say that. So pretty much, given the location of the property and given the comparables that we have had, we have always, through the course of time, we have been supportive. So the range and the numbers that we are charging as on date are at a lower end. So it's pretty much, the numbers are pretty much in sync. If we have to benchmark them, we've
The
done
lower
that.
end of the scale.
Absolutely.
Okay. And based off of, what's out there in the private
Exactly.
industry world, it's still lower, on the lower end of the scale.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Councillor
Madam Chair.
Qureshi. Next is Councillor Tour.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the delegation as well, and Sam, Sanjay, thank you for the work that you do there. We see you almost every single day, so we appreciate the service you give us. I know we've had some discussion about this in camera as well, so I'm going to just tread very carefully about this. But just having a broader discussion based off of what Councillor Qureshi has been asking. To staff, if the hours of operation were to go beyond our working hours at City Hall, that means, or we'll have to figure out the ways in which different entrances have to be unlocked or how access gets provided. And of course, that has security challenges too, after hours, allowing members of public into the building. Is it fair to say that if we were to go down that road and how much that would cost us, it would probably be more than giving a discount on like some rent relief to the business itself? Like, I'm just saying, like, is it economically a sensible thing to do?
Through the chair to Councillor Toor, I do not have those exact numbers. We may have to work with staff to get that indicative number at least back for the council. But just a thought there that, let's say our official hours are 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m.
Yeah.
But if Sanjay was to start an hour prior, 7:30, because some staff do tend to come in early and some do tend to work till late, depending on how they're positioned. So between 7:30 and I would assume between 5:30 or 6, at least that's something that can be a reasonable window. So that will at least give him approximately, I would say, 20% or 25% more time in a given day that he could utilize for his business without a real or a very strong impact. I mean, that's just a thought that I can share. But of course, for any absolute numbers, we can check with our facility staff and get back to you.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That might be the most rational thing to do, at least I would say in the short term, if that's something on the table.
Yep.
But again, when you look at downtown businesses, you look at restaurants or anybody that's in the food business, this is primarily if I look at it as a food business in the downtown, their highest volume is usually in the evenings, and that's not even so much as foot traffic, it is mostly food delivery apps like Uber Eats or DoorDash, those kind of orders that come in. I don't know what those numbers look like for your gateway right now, but I'm assuming obviously if you shut down operations at 4:30, even at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at the latest, you're still missing out that window of opportunity. So just to the delegate, like, we hear you on this. We've had this discussion at council many times. It's a question of fairness. I believe something is already, there has been some direction from staff on this. And something's in the works for this. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of changes that we can implement here. But again, it just goes back to that same point of fairness. I don't want to fully comment on that right now, but I believe there's changes we can make happen. Thank you.
Sure. And through the chair, just for clarification, Sanjay has also explored the food delivery option with other proponents so that he can work with them as well. People can come and pick up the food deliveries as well. So that's something that we are aware of. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Toor. No further questions for staff, but there is a motion from Councillor Qureshi to receive the delegation. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. The next delegation is from Andrea Baranowski, Manager, Community Engagement and Projects, Canadian Polish Business Association, regarding the Polish flag raising event and recognition. Lovely to see you this morning, Andrea. You have up to 5 minutes.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Honorable Mayor, councilors, and distinguished guests. My name is Andrea Baranowski, and it's an honor to be here today. I'm a Brampton resident, Polish-Canadian, and I'm here on behalf of the Canadian Polish Business Association, Manager of Community Engagement and Projects. I'm here today to seek your support for our upcoming Polish flag raising and celebrating Polish Heritage Month. It is Polish culture that has not only shaped the history of Europe, but has also made its mark right here in Brampton. Brampton is a city of diversity where cultures enrich our community. Polish Canadians have contributed significantly, playing essential roles, whether as entrepreneurs, public servants, educators, or volunteers, bringing with them deep traditions, a strong work ethic, and unyielding spirit of resilience. Beyond cultural contributions, the economic ties between Poland and Canada have flourished over the years, reflecting a robust and mutually beneficial relationship. In 2023, Poland exported goods worth about $2.18 billion to Canada, while Canadian exports to Poland amounted to about $902 million. Could I have you move to slide 38, please? This dynamic trade relationship highlights the importance of our bilateral connections and the opportunities they present for both nations. Today, the Canadian Polish Business Association, or CBPA, is dedicated to helping Canada increase its trade relationship with Poland. And you can see at pages 37 and 38 of our 2023 reports shown on the slides above, the discussions over a large amount of aerospace purchase and imports from Poland are $608 million. And so these conversations are being had between our two embassies. Now more than ever, we stand for Canada seeking quality workmanship, products, and skills. It is in Canada's best interest to recognize the solid trade relationship with Poland. Polish culture is built upon centuries of history, art, science, and technology. Poland has long been a land of intellectual and artistic greatness and scientific geniuses such as Nicholas Copernicus and Marie Curie Skłodowska. Traditional folk dances tell stories of courtship, pride, and national identity, alongside poetic masterpieces and musical brilliance of Chopin. The Polish diaspora is one of the largest in the world, estimating that over 20 million people of Polish ancestry live outside Poland. According to 2021 census, nearly 1 million people have Polish heritage. This Polish community has significantly enriched Canada's multicultural landscape. We call it Polonia. Polish families in Ontario have successfully integrated into the community and have been proud Canadians for many years. While many of these individuals may not prominently showcase their Polish heritage, as they primarily identify as proud Canadians, they are nevertheless of Polish descent. In February 2024, the House of Commons recognized the significant contributions Polish Canadians have made to Canadian society by passing Motion M75. Officially designating May as Polish Heritage Month and May 3rd as Polish Constitution Day in Canada. Receiving federal and provincial recognition, today I would ask the Council here of Brampton to acknowledge municipally here in Brampton, especially May 3rd, which goes back to 1791, when Poland changed Europe forever with the very first constitution, second in the world to the United States of America. In the GTA, Polish Heritage Month is celebrated with various events that showcase Polish culture and traditions. The Roncesvalles Polish Festival, Mississauga Polish Days, the illumination of Niagara Falls in white and red, and Nathan Phillips Square Polish Parade. This year, the CBPA celebrated Women in Business at the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 609. This inspiring event was attended by Polish Consulate General Sabina Klemek, MPP Charmaine Williams, and Councillor Rod Power. It was a proud moment for the women of our Canadian Polish community, showcasing their resilience, ambition, and contributions in the Brampton community. Could you move through the slides? Thank you. You can just flip through. Thank you. A historic milestone for Brampton community was the construction of St. Eugene de Mazenod Parish over 20 years ago on Steeles Avenue. In Brampton, the first Polish masses were held at St. Anne's Parish in 1988. Blessings from Pope John Paul II were received for the building of a cultural center, and that now sits on over 12 acres of property here in Brampton and is now seen as a beacon of tradition and value for Brampton. On Saturday, May 10, 2025, I ask for your support in joining our celebration of this special occasion, raising the Polish flag proudly at Brampton City Hall at 1:45 p.m. We welcome you to an indoor reception following the flag-raising ceremony, hosting local Polish food that defines Polish hospitality and engaging with our community. Your presence would demonstrate a heartfelt thank you and show appreciation to Polish Canadians for enriching Brampton's economic and social fabric. And I ask you to further support initiatives that celebrate Polish traditions through cultural festivals, educational programs, partnerships with Polish organizations so that we can honor and preserve the legacy of Polish Canadians in Brampton. Thank you, dziękuję bardzo. It would be greatly appreciated to also have a picture with you all today. Thank you very much.
Dziękuję. Thank you so much, Andrea. Fantastic delegation. I have Councillor Keenan on the board, and followed by Councillor Medeiros and Councillor Paleski. Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your delegation. We have the church and the property that you were describing along Steeles does fall on myself and Councillor Medeiros' area, which I've attended a few events there, which are very fun, I would say. I had a great time being there. So I am happy to refer this delegation to staff to help you assist with the flag raising and I would say in protocol for the proclamation through the mayor that would declare Polish Heritage Month. So I will put that referral on for that to be done, but I will, and receipt of your delegation, but I do see other speakers, so we'll do that at the appropriate time. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Keenan. Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. Thank you for coming. And really, it's when I was reviewing the agenda and I saw this was on the agenda, it just didn't occur to me that we did not celebrate the Polish flag raising. It's something that, it's interesting when I first got elected, notwithstanding the importance of the Polish church, and former Mayor Susan Fennell used to tell me, if there's one place that you want to connect with and support. And at the time, they were dealing with an issue. I think there's a Polish tradition of doing celebrations in the forest behind the church, and some of those lands were protected under Credit Valley Conservation. So I know that they would go there, do a very nice setup, and they would do a celebration there, and there was a lot. But through that experience, the Polish community has contributed so much, and it's interesting. I've attended events outside of Brampton, and it just never dawned on me that we didn't do, the fact that we're in 2025 and only now we're going to celebrate the Polish heritage. I think it's long overdue, and I'm really excited, and I hope that you really promote the food, the culture. I had a chance to go to Natolin in Poland, just outside of Warsaw, and I just have all the respect. It's just a beautiful culture, and I know all the contribution that the Polish community have done. So it's great that finally here in Brampton we can celebrate it.
Thank you so much, Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you, Councillor Medeiros. And indeed, when Andrea shared with me that they didn't do a flag raising, I was surprised as well. And so in inviting her here today to delegate, I think it's been a great experience for her, but also a fantastic opportunity for the city of Brampton. Next, we have Councillor Paleski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I've always felt a special attachment to the Polish community, and I don't know if it's maybe, my father represented the area in that area when the church was being built and helped and support, going through that process. And I recall him, telling stories about just the festivals that they used to have there.
Are you sure he's not Polish?
Well, that's the other thing. A lot of people pronounce it Paleski, and then is it a little bit of Polish? I get asked that if I'm Polish. Also, I think, everybody's favorite pope was John Paul II. Are we right? I think we're right. Plus, everybody loves a good pierogi. I love pierogies. I don't know, I'm not pronouncing it right, but even the Polish sausage, the kielbasa. So I think I look forward to the event. I hope it's a great party, and, raise a flag and, have some cuisine, because I think everybody loves a little bit of Polish sausage. So
thanks, Councillor.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much, Councillor Paleski.
Oh, Paleski.
Maybe.
There you go. Councillor Tour.
On May 10th, it will be.
Okay.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you for this delegation. I was fortunate enough as well to go to Poland. That was in the thick of the, the war in Ukraine. And, what most people didn't realize, including myself, when I went to Warsaw at that time, is, everybody talks about supporting Ukrainian refugees across the world. We proudly do it here in Canada as well. But the influx of that in Poland and how the Polish people stepped up to that, the Polish community that stepped up to that, is incredible. The largest site for refugees there was the Expo Center. And you can imagine just like these airport hangars, massive fields, and as far as you can see, it's all just beds and kitchens. And they opened up their homes, they opened up every single government space that they could to make sure that the refugees had a temporary home till other governments in the world could even figure out where all these people would go to seek shelter. So just want to say thank you to the Polish community, the entire country there that really stepped up to take that on when it is considered something very unpopular in today's day and age across the world. But Poland stepped up to the plate over there. So thank you for doing that. I look forward to being at this flag raising as well. One thing I miss about the time when I went to Poland is every popular song that we listen to here in the West, whether it's hip hop or rap, we would get in this tiny van with a Polish driver, didn't speak any English, we would use Google Translate, and every time you would play the radio, like, this song sounds familiar. It's the same music, it's rapped the same way, it is just in Polish and not in English. They have a Polish version of every single song, and I think that was just beautiful to see. So I'm excited and I hope to see or hear some of that music at this flag raising as well.
Thank you so much, Councillor Tour.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your comments and questions regarding the delegation. We have a motion from Councillor Keenan to refer the delegation back to staff for consideration for the flag raising and the Heritage Month designation as well. And if we can possibly have that come back to us next week to council, looking at staff, if they can make that happen. Yes. Over to Commissioner Milojevic.
Thank you, through you, Chair. We already have that on the protocol events, so there's no need to add anything further if that's just understandable. My colleagues can confirm that, correct?
Yeah, unless the ask is to add this to our Heritage Month corporate event listing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we can do that based on this program.
Yeah. So if we could get that report back to council on April 9th, that would be awesome to add this as part of the Heritage Month.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for giving the Polish community a little bit of love, because we've given the world a lot of love internationally, and there's so much more to share with you. So I look forward to all of you being there, because we can share stories more about Poland's support and trades missions, building relationships with Canadians, and all of those wonderful things. So thank you so much for your time today.
All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? That carries.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for the delegations today. Government relations matters, all items were put into consent, which brings us to community services. There are no items that were in community services, and then that brings us to, do I need to ask about public question? Okay. Okay, do I need to ask for community services public questions? No.
There are no questions online.
Okay, perfect. So legislative services, the items that were held, Madam Clerk?
Our next item is 11.2.3.
Okay.
Was held by Councillor Palashi.
Okay, so nothing in legislative services, nothing in economic development, nothing in, so the next item is in corporate services, held by Councillor Palashi, 11.2.3, regarding the staff report, purchasing activity quarterly report. Over to you, Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think I'm just going to speak to Appendix 3. As much as I look at all the other appendices based off of, 2024, going through a lot of those, we get a ton of reports that we have to read and stuff. I don't see, sometimes I look at those reports and And I kind of think, like, I don't recall seeing that. I don't recall seeing that amount of money being allocated to, you know, wherever, benches or something, that I don't feel like, you know, I feel like it's gone kind of through, and if I missed it, then, you know, I'll take the blame for it, but I try and make sure that I go through each one. So I'll speak to, specifically Appendix 3 and some of the items that are coming up. And let's just start by saying, so this is, and it says in the report that whoever the leader of that silo is, that'll determine if we need to continue with this, will make that determination. That being said, so in Appendix 3, the items that are here that are coming up, let's go with the first one, gasoline and diesel. Is that going to come to council at any point? Is the report going to come to council? Is it a detailed report? And is this what you're, you know, acknowledging to council to say that, you know, this is what we're going to do? Or is this already been approved through budget? Community services, fire and emergency services, competitive process, gasoline, diesel, fuels from retail or commercial outlets, secondary vendor, Suncor Energy.
Through the chair to Councilor Pleshy, I believe that will come back to council as a request to begin procurement if we believe it's going to be over $1 million. So I think the previous amount was 1.3, so I would presume, and could confirm with purchasing, that would come back if we expect the amount to be over $1 million. Maybe I'd ask purchasing to confirm that.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that, Commissioner Boyes. You said I believe. Is it coming to council when that's coming up for the RFP? Is there something else that's coming to council?
Through the chair, maybe I'll ask if purchasing is here,
If we
just
get
to confirm
purchase-
it's $1 million, that if that's the threshold, that we bring a request to begin procurement report
Okay,
back.
let's have somebody from purchasing come down, but then let's also, and I hope that you will remind us, what levels of council direction do you need? And there was levels of, I think consulting, was consulting $100,000 and what levels are there? And is it everything over $1 million you bring to council, or is it everything you bring to council? And if, I have lots of questions. Sorry, so specifically, we'll go back to the first one.
Yes, if you could repeat.
Is this specific item, the competitive process for fire and emergency services for gasoline and diesel, is this what's being acknowledged today by council to go ahead and do it? Or is this coming back by way of a report?
Through the chair, that report flags that this will be coming back in the form of a begin procurement report because it's over $1 million for council approval before we start a competitive process.
Okay, great. Now, then that reverts right to my next question. Seeing all of these items, and I don't know if it's 10 per page, there's 3, 4 pages, that's a lot of reports. I don't recall seeing like that 40 some odd reports for items throughout the year. Am I?
Right. They may not all come up throughout the year. What we do is flag what's coming up, I think, in the future 6 to 12 months for potential action or renewal, right? Once we work with the operating department and the clients to assess whether it does need to be renewed, what the value is, it may form then a begin procurement report or not need one. It gets action in a different way, but a begin procurement report that's brought before council. And some of it could just be that some of these come up off cycle or on cycle, right? Like at different times, they're not uniformly distributed when they come up for renewal.
Okay, so then, since this is that first kick at the can to get something in front of council, council has often said, and you may have heard this in the past from various members of council, that something is coming to the end of its life or timeline, and we feel like we need to make a decision like that but we don't have enough time. You know, we like a competitive process. We're extending a contract. I think every councilor has said, you know, you're bringing this report, yet it's, you know, the contract is ending next month, and we need to make a decision. So that being said, how do we now maybe potentially make this report give us the opportunity to say, oh, okay, I do recall this. I recall this is when it was ending, this is when we needed to make a decision, this is what the cost was going to be, and so on. So when that actual detailed report comes forward, then it's not us saying to you, why didn't you bring it to us 6 months ago?
Right.
Or something like that.
Right. I think it's, part of it is just reevaluating the process to sync up a report that appears, for instance, today, the Q4 reports, that shows these are potential procurements that are being, or renewals of existing contracts that are being flagged, with then timing that begin procurement reports, which is a shared ownership with the client and the operating department, that they provide those and make that assessment early on, rather than have it present at the, if I can, at the 11th hours, I think you're inferring.
Yeah.
And that's not an approach that in terms of an approach.
Oh, yeah,
we
no,
prefer
no,
having
no.
more time than
Yeah,
this.
yeah. No, and often I think I believe that it's staff doing a hell of a job to, get this done as fast as possible to, we know time is money, right? And we want to cut red tape and do everything that we can. And I believe in my heart that that's what everybody's trying to do, and we're trying to work through that. Maybe there's an opportunity though here specifically separating what's coming in the future and what's come in the past. And I always appreciate, re-looking at the past, because maybe I missed something, so, I want to better myself to make future decisions. But maybe there's an opportunity here to separate the two of the past and the future, to have that specific and maybe a little bit more detail in those line items is kind of what my suggestion. I leave it up to you to kind of see if maybe we can do something just to help us, right, in terms of putting the seal of approval on it. And then over the $1 million, under the $1 million, there was a $50,000 threshold that could have been consulting. There was $100,000. I'm sorry, I think I moved all of them, but I can't recall, what we did when we did it and what the authority levels are. So for these, is it everything over 100, everything over $1 million, or is it everything over 100,000?
Through the chair, what the reports segment by different values, so anything 0 to 25,000 for different services, 25,000 to 100, 100,000 or over. The significance of that is a 100,000 or greater purchase requires a public procurement, right?
Right.
At $1 million, so between 100,000 and $1 million, it doesn't require a begin procurement report for council to review or approve. However, it appears on these reports, so you have an awareness of this transaction and activity that's pending.
Yeah. Okay, so and maybe this is easier. Can we dust off that report that detailed all the breakdown and bring it back to future council? Can we do that? I don't want a briefing note. I don't want an email, because I want it to be a public document again, but I want it to be, I just want the transparency of the public understanding and knowing as well, if they care. I know there are millions of people watching right now, so they care.
Through the chair, we'll take that back. We'd also say the timing might be good just going forward, because we do plan to come forward with bylaw amendments and a bylaw update. So we can sync all of that up in terms of the values and then come back with enhanced report.
That'd be great. My last question has to do with, I won't pick out the specific item, but there's an item in here that allocates some money to, let's say it allocates some money to a council office. Does that, even though it's in here, does that get captured within that councilor's budget? Or is it separate from the council's budget?
Through the chair, I don't have an answer for you right at this moment. If you have the transaction or you want, we can look into it and find out whether it's reflective of where it's actually captured.
Okay, maybe it's, let's say if I needed, if I outsourced, and I wanted to go through a proper procurement, let's say if I outsourced media training, and we went through a proper, whatever, I followed all the rules, would that go against my budget, or is that something that a department would take?
I believe it go against the budget. We always have a budget and a cost center assigned.
Okay, so
Right.
it goes in the department to find the right person, then they allocate it, then it moves over
To ensure
to.
the funds are available and to provide the right accounting structure.
Those are my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Paleshi. Councillor Tour.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to note, nothing super specific about the report itself here, but I hope that in the future reporting, I guess past Q2 of this year, with our new procurement policy, if we can then start adding at that point another column that identifies where the business or the services is coming from. I think that would help just to identify that these are Canadian businesses, Canadian services, any of that, just based on previous council direction, just to add on to the reporting. And if you could actually pull up the report, the third appendix back on the screen, that was on screen before. Just so that there's no confusion in public, is that a 2022 report or is that a 2024 report on screen? The one that's on screen right now. It should be a 2024, right?
Yes, that would be 2024.
Yeah, if we can just
Through the
rename
chair,
these
it's
files,
2024.
just so that there's no confusion in public, right? Like, we're talking about numbers, we gotta be very particular. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tour. Is that the right page that you're, yeah? Okay.
Through the chair, I believe that's just an administrative error. I'll make sure it's correct. You're welcome.
Okay, no further questions, Councillor Tour? Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Paleshi, Councillor Tour, motion to receive the report. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. And I forgot about the picture with Andrea.
And ask if anybody else is opposed to send in the picture.
Yeah, I'll confirm with them, but we'll take the photo first. Yeah. Okay, I'm now going to pass it over to Chair Brar of Legislative Services to chair the final two pieces of legislative services and everything else moving forward. Over to you, Councillor Brar. Thank you, and we will continue on to our corporate services. Our next item is a discussion item at the request of Mayor Brown, 11.3.1, discussion item regarding the Guyanese Independence Day to Heritage Month corporate events listing. Mayor Brown, you have the floor.
Yes, just very briefly, we have a growing Guyanese community in the city, and I want to add that to our Heritage Months. It's been a request from the community, and I'm sure we can celebrate the rich mosaic that we have by celebrating this growing community in our city.
Mayor Brown, it's Genevieve. It's a little bit difficult to hear you. I wonder if you could just recap for us. Thank you.
Just to recap, I move that we add the Guyanese Heritage Month to the Heritage Month listings, and I believe Councillor Power will second that.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. We have a motion to add that to our corporate events listing. Moved by Councillor Power, seconded by Councillor Palashi. All in favor? And Mayor Brown, thank you. That carries. Yes. Okay, perfect. And our next item is 11.3.2, transitional properties. That was by Councillor Palashi. Councillor Palashi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'd like to ask for a briefing note. Maybe if we can get, if we put the, I don't know if we put the briefing note up on the screen, if we can get some highlights of it. That's essentially what we're trying to do. What I want to talk about specifically is, I believe it was past direction that was provided. I know it was past direction that was provided for the demolition of the Siemens property. That Siemens property is still not demolished. I don't know. I've been told by, have met with staff and been told that there's, and of course it's new staff, so, but there's no money for it. And so now I just need to figure out a way to demolish it, because I believe that when we're talking about the Environmental Education Center and all the fantastic work that staff is doing to get that up and going, I don't want the demolition of this building that I thought was going to be demolished a long time ago, that I am sure the direction came and should have been done, but the staff person that we gave that direction to is not any longer employed by the city. So really want to get to the bottom of how we can demolish the Siemens property building and where you in your department can find the money to do it.
I'll take that back. Through the chair to Councillor Palashi, staff will take that as direction and work with the Public Works Department and our Finance Department and try to move this forward as quickly as possible.
Okay, and thank you for providing the briefing note. When I saw it come through, really wanted to put it on the agenda, and let's see if we can, the due diligence of getting more briefing notes, any briefing notes on agendas, and I think for, the best opportunity to provide information to the public is never a bad thing. It's always a good thing. So I want to put it in a motion, just because I think it's already been in a motion. Again, none of you were at this table when I did it. I'm the only old person here that is left, other than the other two. So I'd like to put that in a form of a motion to find within the department, but I'll leave it open to, if you can't, you need to come back for potentially a little tweak here and there. I'm fine with that, come back to do it, but let's demolish the building. So that's not in our way when we're going through the process of constructing the Environmental Education Center, please. You put the please in the motion too, if you want.
Thank you, Councillor Palashi.
Yeah.
Just want to know if staff would want to respond to that.
Yeah. You did a permit for it? Yeah.
Give it a couple minutes and we'll see the motion on the screen here. Councillor Palashi, is that?
Staff director to proceed with the necessary work demolishing the Siemens building based off of the conversation. Yeah, sorry, Marlon.
Just want to add that we work with the finance department to find a funding source as well.
Okay. Work with the finance department for funding sources. I'm good with that. Madam Chair, if you want to go to the other counselor.
Thank you. Counselor, next is Counselor Fortini.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Madam Chair. On the, I've seen on the report, there's a house on Felinian. What are we doing with that one? Are we gonna sell it now, since the Torbram's not being widened? We don't need a catwalk there. We bury the pool, the house is all falling apart. Like, you know, before it gets worse, we paid a lot of money for it and all that work, and now it's just sitting there.
Through the chair to Councilor Fortini, staff would have to come back and get that direction.
Well,
Unless you want to give it to us today.
we bought the place because we were supposed to do a catwalk to one Torbram to widen it when the walls were there. It's sat there now, it's been 3-4 years. Driveway broken, swimming pool buried, house falling apart. If we're not gonna widen it, then let's get rid of it. Sell it, because it's just causing a problem there, and we recuperate at least some of the money. So,
Staff will still need that direction from council for disposition.
okay, so.
So you can give it to us today?
Yeah,
or-
just look at it and maybe bring it back next, a couple of weeks or so, see, you know, just, I think. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
So,
Council.
we're gonna add it to the agenda? Is that what you said? Sorry?
If I could, through the chair, through to Councilor Fortini, perhaps we could just simply make a friendly amendment to this motion directing staff to undertake the necessary work and bring back a report to council on that particular property
Yeah.
to see whether or not it should be dispositioned or demolished.
Because it's just deteriorating, it's just falling apart, it's just shameful just letting it sit there. You know? Yeah.
No, I think they're two, sorry.
What staff
Maybe
said,
Steve
we're gonna add it
Bush.
to the agenda.
Thank you, Counselor Fortini. I think our commissioner wanted to just clarify.
It's not the Siemens property, it's a different property that Councilor Fortini's that's on the list.
What's the address of
It's on the list as well, but if you just want to make that change, it's the Fidelia Crescent property that Councillor is referring to. Fidelia Crescent.
It's gonna come to a point where we have to demolish the house. So,
Just for clarification, I think the clerk just needed the spelling.
So I can maybe text you separately if that helps. Okay, sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Fortini. Counselor Power, you have the floor.
I'm sorry, I'm just waiting, thanks through the chair, just waiting for the clerk to finish so we can add a friendly to that.
For Delia property.
Right.
Flavian Crescent. Yeah, it's Flavian Crescent, 58 Flavian Crescent. Flavian. 56. Counselor Power?
So if Councillor Palacio, you wouldn't mind a friendly on this, if we could maybe have staff look at making this property into a parkette or a park? I'm feeling friendly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing a motion on the screen that staff be directed to proceed with the necessary work to demolish the Siemens building and work with the finance department to identify funding sources for this for this process, and staff report back to council regarding the conditions of the property located at 56 Flavian Crescent to a future council meeting. Moved by Councillor Palashi, all in favor? Oh, sorry.
Park or parkette, consideration of a park or parkette.
For consideration of a park.
For a consideration. For a park or a parkette. Councillor Palashi, is that okay? We're good with the motion?
yes.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion moved by Councillor Palashi. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. All right, next item. Do any members have any questions regarding this section? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, do we have any questions from the public?
Through you, Chair, there's no questions online.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to a public works section, which will be by Councillor Vicente. Chair Vicente, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, members of committee. We have no items in Public Works and Engineering, so we move on to public question period for Public Works and Engineering. Madam Clerk, do we have any questions?
Through you, Chair, there are no questions online.
Very good. And item 14, public question period for today's meeting. Are there any questions with regards to any item on today's agenda, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Chair, I have no questions online.
Very good, thank you. And so, members, we now move to our next business item, 15, closed session business. I'll ask the clerk to summarize the items that we will be going into closed session for.
Through you, Chair, we'll be going into closed session to address item 15.2, being a closed session report regarding 311 technology modernization pursuant to the Municipal Act, Section 239-2K.
Very good, so I have a motion moved by Councillor Tour for us to go into closed session. All in favor? That carries. And we can go into closed session at 11:20. Would that be sufficient, Madam Clerk?
Perfect.
Thank you. 11:20. Very good. Members of committee, we're now back in session. I will ask the clerk to report our activities from in camera.
Through you, Chair. In closed session, item 15.1 was approved on consent, including the consideration of the following open session recommendations that we do need a vote on. That the report from Sharon Deepnat, Protocol Officer, regarding 2024 Citizen Award recipients be received, and that the council approve the list of 2024 award recipients as recommended by the Citizen Award Selection Committee as shown in Appendix A.
Thank you very much. Do any members have questions? I'll ask that Councillor Santos move this report. Sure. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Madam Clerk.
And the second item that was considered is 15.2. Direction was provided.
Thank you very much. And with that, members, I will now ask for your indulgence for us to add a discussion item moved by Councillor Brar. I need 2/3. Hands up if you're in favor. That carries. Councillor Brar.
Thank you. Thank you through you,
Two votes
Mr.
need to be had, one to reopen the agenda, one to add a discussion.
So we will now ask for council's indulgence to add the discussion item by Councillor Brar. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Councillor Brar.
Thank you. Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Just want to add in a discussion item regarding the Polish Day events for our corporate services. I just want to see if we have anything on the screen here.
One needs money.
There you go.
Do staff have any comment?
With Guyanese month as well.
Councillor Brar, are you moving this motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, the motion is moved by Councillor Brar, and we have staff.
Where did the wording?
The motion for the Guyanese awareness was passed, so Councillor Brar added a new discussion item to add Polish month and Polish recognition. The other option would have been to, committee could have reopened or reconsidered that other motion and amended it. Either way, they both get recognized. So it's up to committee how you'd like to.
And they don't
As long
come-
as they're both
Okay,
They
we're
don't
good.
conflict. Not conflicting motions. Isn't one forwarding it to staff?
So I will ask if any members have questions. Any questions from members? Seeing none, staff wish to speak to the motion.
This would, through the chair, this would not require us to report back then, because we'll just add it now and then for council next week. And I think we could just take the each out of the bolded part after the dollar amount.
So it conflicts with the previously supported, so now it makes it a little bit more challenging. Happy to, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Paleshi.
So you don't have the councillor from the motion that moved it earlier. He, present right now. He's not present, so it's clearly, it conflicts, although I strongly believe this councillor will support it and everybody else will support this and everything like that. But in terms of, we have two conflicting, one sending it to staff, one's just approving it. You can't do both. And you already have one that's been moved, so.
So may I
don't know which
suggest
one.
then that we refer this matter to council, and we can have an additional discussion then?
Through you, Chair, it is the motion that where we received the delegation and referred the matter to staff, basically to come up with this, was already passed. I believe Councillor Keenan moved it. It could be reconsidered or reopened, or we could add this motion to the council meeting, and it will be ratified that day anyway. Nothing will happen sooner or later if this motion is on the next agenda, but again, it's with committee now.
Thank you. Councillor Santos.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. I think it's fine if that delegation was referred back to staff for a report back, and we can still pass this motion today. The report back at council next week will just be that we've passed this motion today, essentially, which is the same thing of what Councillor Keenan wants to achieve.
Any other members?
I think,
We'll ask if staff have any additional comment.
Through the chair, just quickly seeking advice from the clerk, the CAO, and I just would ask that you bring up the mayor's discussion item on the Guyanese Heritage Month. That needs to be added perhaps to this motion too. We're not saying that because we're Guyanese, but.
Very good. So we're all on the same page with this one. Are there any that we can move this motion as it is complementary to the motion from earlier today, and it achieves the outcome that that motion was seeking today?
Point of order.
Councillor Pleshy.
I disagree. Although I know the intent of we all know what the intent was, but it was a referral to staff. That was passed. As far as I'm concerned, that means a report's coming back. I know that we want to circumvent that report now with this motion, which I strongly believe everybody's going to support. But that being said, you can't do that. It's a referral to staff for a report to come back. That's what's been approved. You can't now say, even though that vote's happened, we're just gonna not do that. We're gonna do this. You can't. You gotta look at it like if it was something completely different. And unfortunately, Councillor Keenan is not present right now, so he cannot speak to it. He cannot pull the other one off. I think just referring this now to council of next week to be ratified, deal with it then.
So Councillor, you've already spoken. Is there another member who wishes to refer this?
I raised on a point of order both times.
Very good.
I've not spoken to the issue.
All right. So now we have a motion of referral of this motion to council next week. Any speakers? Seeing none, all in favor? That carries. And with that, we have gone through our items today. Our last item of business is item 16, adjournment. This committee is scheduled to next meet on Wednesday, April 23rd at 9:30 a.m. I have a motion moved by Councillor Power to adjourn today's meeting. All in favor? That carries. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.